Some colorful cleats with great causes being represented here today for the NFL's My Cause, My Cleats initiative. You're looking live at Houston Texans players. They're warming up for today's game against the Cleveland Browns. Welcome to Week 13. Kyle Allen will get his second start of the year. And what can we expect in Deshaun Watson's return? We'll get you ready for today's game with the top storylines and answer fan questions. Texans Unlimited Live, presented by Verizon, starts now.
Welcome to our coverage of Houston Texans football.
Keep it real simple. Play pass and shoot.
Let's go, Texans! Let's go!
Welcome into Week 13, Texans Unlimited Live, presented by Verizon. We're back at home as the Houston Texans take on the Cleveland Browns, led by Deshaun Watson in his first game in 700 days. Drew and I were both here for that last game that he played, January 3rd, 2021. And here we are. A lot has happened since then, but Watson returns for the Browns, and the Texans would like to get a win today. And, of course, we've got Color Rush uniforms. We've got My Cause, My Cleats. We've got a lot going on for today's game.
We sure do. Watson just came out a moment ago. There were some cheers. There were some boos. It was a mix. There's a lot of Browns fans in the crowd right now. But Texans just want to get a win. I mean, you talk to guys in the building here, and they don't care as much about that guy as much as getting a W and getting that bad taste out of their mouth, because it has been yucky for the last, 5-6 games. Yeah. They won right before the bye, and they haven't won since. So they got to turn things around and get a dub.
All right, well, let's get into some of your quick hits presented by BMW. Deshaun Watson has not played in 2 years, but Lovie Smith says don't expect any rust when Watson takes the field today.
No, Christy, we're telling our guys we're gonna see the best version of Deshaun, and I think you go into every game that way. Have no idea. I mean, he hadn't played for a long period of time, but we hope that there's some rust and all those things. But no, that's not what we're telling them. We're telling them that we're showing them the stats. One of the best offenses in the league statistically, adding a great player. So that should say that they're going to be better. That's how we're going into the football game. It's going to be a tough challenge if they're throwing the ball with the receivers that they have, but we know that the easiest thing that there is to do to get a player back into the mix is to hand the ball off to two excellent running backs. That's how we're going into the game.
And Kyle Allen will get his second consecutive start for the Texans here today. He's going to face 2 #1 overall picks in Jadeveon Clowney, former Texan, and Myles Garrett, who has 10 sacks on the year so far. Kyle Allen, very familiar with Myles Garrett. The two played at Texas A&M. And earlier this week, Allen was asked what he remembers most about Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember his picture from high school with him running around. I mean, I think everyone's seen it, but to him looking like he does now, and then a bunch of his high school teammates, he looks like he's 30 years older than them, you know. But, I mean, he's a freak. He's a good dude. I mean, he was the best player on our team then. He's probably one of the best players in the league now.
And Dameon Pierce still leads all rookies in rushing yards this season, despite having back-to-back weeks with single-digit rushing yards. Pierce said that this run game has had a few tweaks made to it this week to get the ground game going once again.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of things that we've been doing to probably show a little eye candy, you know what I'm saying, get a little misdirection going, and you know what I'm saying, like trying to open up some things, get us going in the run game early. But at the end of the day, it's still based to us, but we're just making it look different, that's all.
Eye candy. Dameon Pierce is promising a little bit of eye candy for the run game. And what is that eye candy? Maybe the inactives list will give us some clues. Drew, we've got some surprises on the inactives list today.
Surprises indeed. It's a very notable list of names of guys that aren't going to be out there. Brandon Cooks obviously is the headliner. He is not going to play. He's got a calf injury. Derek Stingley Jr. also going to miss again. The rookie corner will be out. That's a big deal. Amari Cooper over on the other side of the field is an excellent wide receiver, but no O.J. Howard at tight end, so that means Brevin Jordan is active. And no Rex Burkhead at running back. So Eno Benjamin active for the first time as a Texan. Maybe we see him integrated in today with some different looks. I mean, this is a guy who had 92 yards back about a month or two ago with the Arizona Cardinals. So he can play. He's not bad. So you see some of the other names in Booker and Deculus, the rookies, they're going to be down today. But those are some of the changes, the eye candy that you bring up, and it's a very interesting point because nobody's seen the Texans offense with those guys integrated. Might not matter, might not be a big difference, but those are new faces, and it's the first time all season that Rex Burkhead has not been active. I was on the field last week in Miami, basically right along the line of scrimmage when he got flipped over and folded in half. I mean, just the fact that he got up and walked off the field was amazing, but he's still dealing with that. He was in the concussion protocol but did practice on Friday, so sounds like he's out of the protocol but just not able to go today, and I could see why. It was a violent hit. So Burkhead down, Benjamin up.
Yeah, and you've got Dare Ogunbowale still, who scored his first touchdown last week. So maybe that mix of running backs will be what this Texans team needs to do to get the ground game going against a Browns defense that's allowing about 131 yards on average per game. They are really strong offensively, but defensively, there's some holes there for that Browns defense. So you could probably get your offense going if all things go well.
Yeah, DP, it's a great point you bring up, but you got to remember, what did Jadeveon Clowney do when he was here with the Texans? Where did he line up? Yes, he was an outside linebacker, an edge guy, but there were a lot of times they'd put him over a center on opposing teams, and he'd come screaming up the middle. So you got to be wary of that. None of the Texans are, but look out for that today, and it's fun. Jonathan asked a question, and we want to hear from all of you and from where you're sending these questions in, but he asked, with Rex out, what kind of impact can and will Eno Benjamin have on the offense
today?
That's a great
question.
It's a fantastic question. Normally you'd think, well, he's going to come in, he's going to do this, and this. But based on what we've seen this season with guys who have been added by other teams or been added from other teams and come in, I don't know. I think he's going to have a chance to catch some passes. I think he'll have a chance to get some runs. They want to get things going. They need to get things going. It's like you said, they can, in theory, against a defense that has been susceptible to giving up the run.
Yeah, and it was a surprise when the Cardinals released him. He was doing some nice things. He had some injuries in the backfield, and then they released him. And so everyone's sort of been waiting with bated breath to see what Eno Benjamin can do for this ground game, because you've got Rex Burkhead out, like you mentioned. You've seen what Dare Ogunbowale can do. Maybe you've got another guy in the mix there. You see him wearing number 20. He'll be active today, first game as a Texan. So very curious to see how they line up. Maybe we'll see a little bit of him and Pierce together.
Yeah.
I don't know. When Dameon Pierce says eye candy and some different looks, I think everything's on the table. So maybe a few surprises. That sure would be nice. All right, we're continuing with your fan questions presented by Dyke. And Joe wants to know.
No, Zach. We got to get Zach's in. Zach was
question.
wanting to know, can we expect to see Dameon Pierce get back on track this week? And that's a perfect follow-up to what we were just discussing. I mean, yeah, I think you can. I don't think there's been some rumble out there from a few folks on social media that, he hit his sophomore wall, or his rookie wall, rather. He didn't hit a rookie wall. He's been in a wall of guys being in his lap when he gets the ball. It's been a big problem of getting him going. Lovie Smith has said that. He said, hey, listen, when Dameon Pierce was having all that success earlier in the season, he was the first to tell you, hey, my offensive line was getting holes open for me and giving me a good protection. That hasn't been the case. So if they can do that, if they can kind of keep things clean, yeah, he'll go off. He'll get his.
I mean, I think it's more uncharacteristic what's happened the last 2 weeks.
Totally.
Because what we saw his body of work leading up to that point, he was able to make guys miss. He was getting out there. I mean, I think the frustration with the run game has been there. Obviously, they've faced, like you said, a lot of tough interior defensive linemen. I want to see Dameon Pierce get back on track, if not for the only reason he's so close to 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He was having a record-breaking season, and even despite having 2 games where he only put up like 16 yards rushing total in the last 2 weeks, he still leads all running backs in rushing yards. So, I think that the talent that we've seen in Dameon Pierce was, that what we've seen the last 2 weeks is uncharacteristic of the talent that we've seen overall. And I would expect him to get back on track. Like I said, this Browns defense, a little bit porous against the run.
Yeah, you're right. No rookie in the NFL this year has more rushing yards than Pierce. Let's get that going. And if you get it going, good chance you kind of come out of this with a win.
All right, Javari wants to know, can we expect to see Amari Rodgers with Brandon Cooks being out? I would expect to see Amari Rodgers. Now, I don't think that's going to be the replacement for Brandon Cooks.
Right.
I think you'll see more Nico Collins. You might see more production from the tight ends. I mean, I think that what we've seen from Jordan Akins, he was the leading receiver last week.
Yeah.
So you've got him and Collins, and then now with Brevin Jordan in the mix, he's caught some nice passes here last year, just has not been able to get things going this year, has been inactive for a stretch of games. So I know that he's dealt with the injury, came back against Vegas, and then he was inactive, a healthy scratch. Now that he's healthy, he's had some time to sit out from the game. I want to see what he brings to the table as well. But I think that we could see a little bit of Amari Rodgers. I don't know how much, though, because it's going to take some time to get worked into this offense.
He was thought highly enough to be drafted in the 3rd round, but he had his struggles with holding on to the football. So maybe he can get rid of that, shed those struggles, and really take off and show that promise that was there that got him picked so highly early on.
And I think that brings us to a good question from Ryan. A bigger game today, Philip Dorsett or Chris Moore?
Chris Moore has been so consistent.
He really has.
Nothing wild as far as like a 150-yard receiving game, but you can basically count on Chris Moore every few games to have a big reception, get 20-plus, 30-plus yards on a catch, maybe get a touchdown in there. He has been very, very steady for this offense. I would tend to think it's going to be Chris Moore if anybody gets out of those two.
I mean, I like what we've seen out of Philip Dorsett,
Sure.
the speed he brings to the game, but I think with all the changes at quarterback, you're right, the one consistent thing has been Chris Moore. Now, he doesn't put up a lot of yards. He's not putting up big flashy numbers, but he'll make a play or two in the game that'll be really big, something that extends the drive, a nice 20-yard catch here and there, and I think we definitely want to see more of that today.
Now, devil's advocate, Dorsett can do that, though. I mean, he can go deep. He can get after guys, and if nothing else, he can burn people down the field for a defensive pass interference. I mean, we've seen that quite a bit in his time here, so that counts just as much as a big, long completion. If you get one of those spot fouls on a DPI, let's do it. But either one, get them going. Good things going for the Texans offense.
All right, well, let's get into the sleeper of the game presented by Mattress Firm. I'll go first because we had someone asking about Jerry Hughes, how many sacks he's going to get today. And that leads me right into my sleeper of the game. It's going to be Jerry Hughes.
Okay.
He is obviously, I don't know if he's a sleeper just because of the sack numbers he's put up this year. I'd like to see him put up 3 sacks today just because in the wild card game against the Texans, when Jerry Hughes was with the Buffalo Bills in 2019, he had 3 sacks on Deshaun Watson. He had a monster game. And I know that he is hungry because they lost that game. They were leading the entire time. They were out of it, and that kicked them out of the playoffs. So I expect to see a big game from Jerry Hughes, and I'm going to go 2 to 3 sacks. Why not?
You talk about hunger. You talk about kicking. Jerry Hughes is hungry for a win. He kicked a cooler last week.
Absolutely did.
He's furious about what's going on here. He wants things to change. I think that's a great pick for you. Getting some sacks would help that. I'm going to go with also not a sleeper per se, but since I'm going to tear a page from your book, I'll go with Christian Harris. The rookie is going to play. He left the game last week with a deep shoulder bruise, Lovie Smith said. You need him today against a guy in Chubb who's maybe one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the NFL. I know the last 2 weeks have been good against the run, but you are going to get tested as a Texans defense today by what is coming out there for the Browns. Harris has got to be a big part of slowing that down, and if not slowing it down, helping stop it.
Well, we've got just under 36 minutes until kickoff. You can catch the game on CBS and on Sports Radio 610. That's going to do it for our show. If you want to get tickets for the next home game, it's coming up Week 15, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. You can get your tickets at HoustonTexans.com/tickets. That's going to do it for Texans Unlimited Live, presented by Verizon. Thank you to all of you for watching. Have yourselves a great game day. And as always, go Texans.